Good afternoon.
Hi.
We're happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We meet you. Who are you?
I always loathe introductions. I'm never very good with introductions. So my name is Duena Blomstrom, and I am the CEO of PeopleNotTech, which is an AI-driven software solution that will change a number of industries when it comes to people, not technology. But other than that, and to finish the introduction, I have written a book called Emotional Banking. I have been writing and working in Fintech for the last 9 or 10 years now, and I have been around the block really in terms of technology.
All right. Okay, for the layman, how would you define Fintech? What's Fintech?
I've written about 3 or 4 articles about this, and they're always very controversial. I find that Fintech should have a much broader definition than it does have. It is essentially any type of technology that is involved in the process of exchanging money. Whether that money goes through a bank or goes through a technology company that offers it directly to consumers, or even it goes from one consumer to another, that's all Fintech to me. So anything at all that is technology based and it helps towards some type of exchange when it comes to what I call a money moment, that's Fintech. And whether that comes from a bank, or it comes from a technology provider, or it comes from the many startups, which is essentially the general definition you're going to see everywhere, it doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that it's about technology and the way we employ it so that we create money moments for the consumer.
Is Fintech people-centered or technology-driven, or more or less the same?
It's a very interesting question. It isn't either. Fintech kind of just happens to us. Your question involves that there would be any kind of rhyme and reason, that there would be any kind of driving factors, that we would want it a certain way. And realistically, it's more accidental than we like to claim. What happens is the industry has grown out of the intersection between the speed of technology and the fact that banks in themselves had to start reacting to the fact that there are new entrants in the market. There are fintech to consumers, there's challengers, there's GAFA coming to kind of be at the same table and eat the same lunch. And in terms of what has been the answer of the market, it should have been a lot more customer centric than it really is. And if you listen to the banks and if you listen to any player in fintech, they will tell you they are very customer centric, that they really care about the consumer, that they are coming up with experiences that are addictive. But the reality of it is nobody really studies what the consumer feels about their money. Very few people spend time to do a very serious design exercise when it comes to digital experiences. The reality in the ground is not as beautiful as the slides and the conversations at the various conferences, and the result of that is that the consumer themselves don't have access to these amazing experiences. And if you look at what you get as a consumer from a normal technology-driven app, a game, a consumer app of any kind, and what you get from your financial services, the difference there is huge. And us as consumers, and we are all consumers, that's the beauty of it, or the tragedy of it, is that a banker is also a consumer. So they have these two hats. As a banker, they'll tell you that the regulation and the type of technology they have in the background that they refer to as legacy, all of that is preventing them from making these amazing experiences. But as a consumer, they know full well that the difference between them and Uber, or the difference between them and whatever you get as a gaming or a fitness app, is huge, and it's not an acceptable difference to the consumer anymore. And when someone like Apple or Google will come in and give you that type of experience, it will be very difficult for you to justify still existing as a consumer with the incumbent banks.
And I guess that's where you come in. So how do you envision to provide information towards addressing the issues you have identified?
My journey is very strange, and I have discovered that it's not even only about the end consumer, it's also about the organization of the bank and whether or not that type of organization is able to respond to this type of change and this type of need from the consumer. So what we have now is essentially a very big, very stale, very paralyzed organization that is attempting to compete with someone who is new and nimble and technology driven, such as the big players in Silicon Valley. And they can't do that. They are so set in their ways, so paralyzed by a process, so fixated on what they've been doing, that it's really difficult to come up with that type of experience. So where I come in is where I am trying to change organizations in incumbent banks from the inside out. And not only in banks, our technology works for any type of industry. And it focuses on the key driver that makes people be better. And that driver is something that has been researched years and years ago called psychological safety in teams. And it's also something that Google has come up with when they were researching what does make a team productive. And that is that the one driver to keep people productive and to keep them essentially satisfied and happy and able to do their job is whether or not they feel psychologically safe with each other, whether they feel like they can open up, whether they feel like their opinions are heard, whether they can feel vulnerable and learn and grow as a team. And if you manage that one lever of change, then you're a lot more likely to be able to do design, to employ technology, to compete with the big guys. So my life's work is going to be that we attempt to change the organization from the inside, get their people in a psychologically safe place where they can indeed compete with all these big giants that already have organizations that have teams that are secure and happy and able to deliver technology.
And you are positive this can happen?
This will happen, yes. So far the research has been very dry research, so it has started essentially a few tens of years ago, and there are many academics, among which Professor Dr. Amy Edmondson from Harvard who have studied the phenomenon. And it's a very complex topic, right? Because the way we attain psychological safety in teams goes to the fundamentals of being a human. How do you learn? How are you secure? How are you flexible? How do you stay connected with your peers? How do you together do something? They're difficult things, in particular when in the work environment, things like impression management come in, where you're trying to make sure that you always look your best or what you perceive the organization wants out of you. All of those things have to be managed in a certain way by emotionally intelligent leaders, which is the other bit that's difficult to do, in particular in big organizations. But once you have that, an emotionally intelligent leader that's smart enough to keep their people psychologically safe, all of a sudden you have productivity. And so what I am attempting to do is to put a number, an actual results and money number on all of this theoretical research. We have created a solution that we're going to be selling to big organizations, and my biggest hope is that we can then show, once we have bettered the people and once we have better leadership, we then make more money. Because let's face it, everyone is attempting to have a commercial model here, and my feeling is that the reason we haven't gotten very far with getting people's work environments better is because we didn't have a way to show to management that this is actually a risk factor if you don't do it better. This is actually a way to increase your P&L and make more money. There are business drivers to doing the right thing by your people. This is not a nice thing to have, it's a necessary thing to have. So once I start putting numbers there and they can see that they can have better business results if they take care of their people, then yes, I believe I can make a change.
So you do agree with the saying that the way the fintech story started perhaps was not packaged properly, because there was an atmosphere of fear, there was an atmosphere of an aggressive takeover, and it made a lot of people feel unsettled. And I think you're trying to smoothen things in that direction.
Yes, to a degree. I think you have to remember there are millions and millions of people working in banks, and they are the muscle of the system. And these people are incredibly intelligent, and they have loads of skills. Whether they have the right set of skills, it's a different conversation. I'm very big on soft skills and not hard skills. I think we're bankrupt in our thinking if we keep thinking in terms of hard skills when machines are coming to take those away from us. But all of this layer of people in incumbent banks and any other type of big organization are underutilized, and they are more and more. I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's really bad. There's the proportion of people at work that are very much at risk of mental health issues and or already experiencing mental health issues is staggering. It is an absolute crisis coming. And unless we want to kind of have this type of Hunger Games future in which AI is going to take what they take, the rest of us are going to be split between those who could take the humongous pressure and those who couldn't, I think that's a really horrible way of looking at the future. So I think instead of that, we should take a step back, look at what technology we have, employ that and what people we have, and realize that there are ways to make it better for ourselves as a workforce, for ourselves as a future of work, and all of that will play into banking. We can talk about. Now, I'm going to speak about this actually in my speech today. We can talk about blockchain all we like. We can talk about data, AI. We can say that that's the future. We can look at numbers all we like. It's all irrelevant until such a time that we have managed to look at our people and change them for the better. We're not going to be able to access any of this.
So how this thinking of yours, how has it been received in your community?
Well, it's very new, to be fair. We have actually just launched it at the beginning of last week. It is now that anyone can access it as a consumer. I have essentially given up the fight of moving mountains from the top, if you wish, and I'm going to move mountains from the bottom, in the sense that when we started out, this solution of ours was sold by speaking to a CEO or other and explaining to them how amazing this future is. And in honesty, that was a very bad idea, because things are very, very slow in these organizations, and you can't make that type of change by attempting to sell enterprise level software that takes years to get into an organization. So the very nature of how paralyzed the organization was what was stopping us from getting the stuff in the hands of the consumers that needed it the most. So what we've done is we have been agile and flexible enough that we have done a complete pivot, and we have opened it, and anyone can go to Psychological Safety that works, whip out a credit card, and become the leader that's starting to learn emotional intelligence and starting to look at the way their team is doing without asking their CTO if it's okay to buy a tiny subscription. Which means that hopefully we are now going to see at the people level, at the actual workers level, that they need what they need. And I feel like the reception has been amazing, in all honesty. The tests we've done, the people we've talked to, in particular when it comes to software developers, when it comes to people working in teams, who have not been asked how they feel in many years, who have not been given any type of tools to learn how to be better. I feel like it's going to be transformative, and hopefully once we have enough of these people, we can then knock on the door of the respective CEOs and say, you see these 300 teams that have already been using this, can we make a serious change at an enterprise level or not? That is our evil plan.
Tell us about the books you have written, your books.
The book in itself, there's only one for now, and the book in itself is called Emotional Banking, Leveraging Fintech and Transforming Retail Banks into Brands by Changing Culture. Very long subtitle, because I thought, and it's probably not even exact, don't quote me, because I thought bankers should at least read the title, if nothing else, if they're too busy to read the contents. But the book in itself it has a little bit about the introduction to Fintech, the history of Fintech, and then what has happened from then on in terms of relating to the consumer. But as I said, that is essentially my tribute to what do we do in Fintech so that we look at the consumer's feelings about their money. My next book is going to be called Soft Skills Are Hard, and How to Keep Your Job in the Age of AI. So that is going to be a little bit of a departure. But they all kind of blend together, because my focus has always been, what do we do to fix it, both from a consumer point of view and an employee point of view.
Can we have a snoop into the next book?
Sure. Happy to get you a link, for instance, and you can go look at it. Okay. I write a lot on LinkedIn. I write a little bit on Forbes, so anyone can go. Just kind of, I believe my name is slightly easy to find on Google, so you can go read a little bit over there. What
it will be about? Will it be disruptive?
I find it very difficult to be middle of the road. You'll see, it's not exactly my personality. So I hope it will be disruptive enough to make us think about whether or not we are able to access our humanity and win, or we're happy to hand the keys of the kingdom to machines and go home and watch TV.
Okay. Wow. You made your presentation for the conference.
That's happening at 1:45, so not yet, no.
All right. We are looking forward to that presentation.
I would love to have you in the room.
Yes, I will be there.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you for being
Thank you so much.
with
Thank
us.
you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.